Mike. I actually had a question while, and this is might not be relevant to what Citizen Warrior Foundation is doing, but it is something of a personal story myself.
Please.
You mentioned about Vault, right? Vault declaring bankruptcy as well, right? And we were also investing from India into Vault, and a lot of our funds are also stuck, and we are kind of somewhere in the same space as you are. How do we fight against this? What is the model that we can replicate over here? Because Celsius is registered in the US, right? But in India, Vault is kind of registered in Singapore, so it's more difficult for us to do so. How do we kind of rally around this cause? What do you suggest for people who
Right.
are
Let
invested in Vault, and how do we kind of replicate the same model that you are fighting for with Celsius?
me give you play by play. So the first thing is, I know people in Singapore that are the good guys. And I mean that for real. Like, they are the good guys. They're OGs and they're the good guys. They know, I mean, you take any of these Web3 kids who, by the way, are brilliant, so I'm not trying to put them down. But like, these guys know the substrate of the substrate that these guys are building, right? And they know about all the shenanigans. So this is where partnership comes into play and relationship building, right? This is exactly what comes into play. We do know the model. We do know the best approach, we believe. And if someone knows a better approach, critique our approach so we can improve it, right? We always welcome constructive feedback. But what you want to do is establish a medium that can have legal standing, right? That can receive capital, that can build up human capital and intellectual capital, and then connect it to a, let's say, legal representative in Singapore. That's number one. Number two, damage reports are like golden bars in that people's legitimate, meaningless suffering tears, which is a terrible thing, right? It's terrible. It's terrible. All right. But those are assets that you can build up and push your way into the media. Because if you're not getting the story, if you think, like I said, no one gives an ish about you. I'm sorry. Like, half your parents think that you suck, just so you know, in case you didn't know. Half your parents don't like you. Okay? So the broader public doesn't give an ish, especially because they thought you were like half of you were Bitcoin millionaires and the other half are like investing in Dogecoins, right? So anyway, the point is this, is that you have to individually make the decision to take action. Someone has to go get an institution together. I suggest somewhere where they can privately donate. I don't know how it works, right, in India. If it's over here, it's called a 501c3, and then you can choose amongst the 501c3 and exempt purposes. But essentially, where people can donate to you and their personhood would remain unpublic. Okay, because this is always conflicts of interest and all these different. It's just unpublic, make it private, and establish a trustworthy legal representation. Collect those damage reports, identify, so get a blockchain analyst on board, get as many assets under management as they were before they restricted the withdrawals, right? Try to find internal financials if you can, right? When was it incorporated? How long after? You need a few blockchain analysts, financial analysts. You need access to the areas within DeFi that they were using in order to generate this yield. And then you need to have their financials to see if they were, at what point they became an illegitimate company, if that ever happened, and if there was malfeasance at play, which you'll be able to tell through having access, which requires the source documents, right? So either you go through a full legal, you have a big backer, you get legal standing, and then you subpoena the documents. That's a way. Or you encourage what we're doing, which is a crowdsourcing event so that people can anonymously contribute them. But obtain legal standing and then pursue it. And don't do it where you're pointing fingers at each other like a bunch of stupid children so nothing gets done. Find the most reputable person that you can agree upon. Like, just take your leaders of, like, let's say the A group, the B group, and the C group. Get together, the leaders get together, and just fight it out and determine who their Murdoch is going to be, right? So get your Murdoch together, right? Are you a good Murdoch? Yeah? Okay, good. Go for a good Murdoch. And now good Murdoch goes over to the legal rep and says, this is how we're going to do it, and then pursue it. And be relentless, right? Because no one's going to get your crap for you. No one has your interests and hearts. No one gives an ish what happens to you. And if you don't take individual action, you think someone else is going to do it for you, quite frankly, maybe you don't deserve your deposit, right? So take individual action. It happens with the sovereign individual taking action and taking accountability. The mistake was custodying it outside of cold storage. Okay, let's recognize that mistake. That's how we contributed, right? Too good to be true. That's how we contributed. Now we look to the external loci of control, and it might have been third parties outside, right, of Vault. I don't know, right? Or it could have been the insiders. Find out. Find out. Sit around, do nothing. All right, don't expect anything back. But yeah, form a partnership with us. We'll
Absolutely,
walk you through every
absolutely.
single step, all the connections you need. That's what we do. That's what we do. That's why we're here.
Absolutely. I think this is a great approach, Mike. And I talked about this because I personally have skin in the game. A lot of my assets were seized as well. And I empathize with you when you talk about your experiences with the Celsius network, right? So, which is why your approach will be really helpful for our audience sitting here in India who has kind of invested in Vault and kind of are suffering the consequences of doing that